Greetings, family. Shalom, shalom. Welcome to H2HDI. I am your host, Elder Josh Malari, here to equip you, encourage you in how to stay Echad, one, in tune with the Triune. And if this is your first time here on Intune or on H2HDI, which stands for House, the number 2, House Discipleship Institute, you're not here by coincidence. You're not here by just glancing on through your phone or on YouTube or something like that. The Father actually set you here and sent you here because he wants you to know the reality and the truth, because the truth will make you free. And what is the truth? His Torah. It's not something that's fabricated that you can actually hear in the church realm, because hear me out. When you go into a modern Christian church, what they're going to equip you with is to say we're not under the law, but yet we're under grace, which gives you the access to violate the law of life and the law of and to violate, hear me out, the law of sin and death, or even the 10 Commandments. I was talking with a young man about how the law is done away with, and I had a question for him. I said, if the 10 Commandments are still in effect, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not, have a mighty one above Yahuah. And I asked him, well, let me ask you this. If you're not under the law, and if I killed you right now, or I kidnapped you or something like that, does that make the law of no effect? And he's like, no, it's still in effect. I said, thank you. So that's why you got to understand the measure of rule of what you're given. So if you're actually coming in for the first time and you're understanding, well, I got tired of the church realm because they were all spewing, going all around in a circus, in a circle, because if you actually dissect the word church, it takes you to the Greek word circe, which is a Greek word that takes you to circus. And what do you do in a circus? There's Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey. I forgot how you say the second part of that circus, but that's what one of the circuses I used to go to when I was young. In the Bay Area, I used to live in San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, in that arena, but it was San Leandro is where I live, but I would go over there and travel because I just like the Bay Area. But what was interesting was that if you go to those circuses, you actually see that they have a platform that's circular. So what was going on in that time of watching the circus and then go on into the church was that it was going on in a consistent motions of emotions, but yet never pressing on and teaching you and equipping you on how to press towards the mark of the high calling. What is the high calling? It's sonship. What is the high calling? It's the name of Yahuah. It's the name of Yahushua, the Son. And if you understand this Father's name, then you understand the Son's name. But what's interesting is that when we go into a church realm, and I had this problem, was that, hear me out, I left a spiritual discipleship training church because my dad's company got shut down, and I had to move to Southern California with my dad. And so we were looking for a church to go to, and lo and behold, we went to one. We heard that it was teaching the literal of the word, the book of Leviticus, word by word, line upon line, which sounded good. But there again, there was no spirit. There was no anointing that was to help break the yoke of bondage in that arena. So what do we have in today's modern church? We have a lot of word, but nobody tapped into the realm of spirit, because a lot of people are saying, let's break it down simple. If you go to YouTube, you can actually see people saying, speaking in tongues, oh, this person's speaking in tongues, it's demonic. And then you have another group saying, no, speaking in tongues is edifying your spirit. And then you have the other group that actually says, where do you find the speaking in tongues in the New Testament? Or, excuse me, not the New, but where do you find where Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob was speaking in tongues? So that's just something for you to research, because I'm actually persuaded personally to say that the tongues is actually hidden in Psalms 119, the Hebrew Aleph Tav. So you got to understand the measure of rule of where you're walking and where you're living out. You can't just go to a church and not expect, well, you can nowadays to go to a modern day church, expect not to be empowered, but yet go through emotions on your day-to-day basis of just reading the scriptures just to make you feel good. The Father is a father of decent. He does everything decently and in order. But the order right there, there's also a measure of rule. So if you go to Romans chapter 12, verse 3, there's one word I want you to see. Romans chapter 12, verse 3. And he says right here, so you understand the verse before that where I'm about to turn, where it says, be not conformed to this world, but ye be transferred by the renewing of the mind. Not intellect, because if you understand, if you learn how to separate your soul from your spirit, and you learn how to separate intellect from spirit, which that's a whole nother ball game, but I want you to really understand what's happening right now. Intellect, AI, is having a battle between the Father and his Ruach, his set-apart spirit. The reason for that is because AI is only accustomed to make you type whatever you want to listen to, not what the Spirit of the Father is trying to teach you, encourage you, and equip you with. So let's go to verse 3. For I say, through the favor given to me, to everyone who is among you, not to think of themselves more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, as Yahuah has dealt to each one a measure of emunah. And I'm not saying faith, because faith has actually intertwined in the English language with fate. So faith is different in Greek, which is pistis, means confession of faith. And in Hebrew lexicon 530, faith means emunah, to manifest faith, not to confess faith. Well, why is that? It's because the Father wants to manifest the promises that he's already spoken to you before the foundations of the world. Right now, everything that we're going through, I was going through a battle personally at work. My stomach wasn't acting up, but I said to myself, Josh, you need to man up, get some electrolytes, and continue working. And so my stomach was acting up. I was like, nope, physician, heal thyself. And that's what I had to do. So the Hebrew word, the word right there I want you to research is measure. To each he has dealt a measure of emunah. Measure in Hebrew takes you to 4884, which is kind of funny because I thought it was going to be a different lettering in Hebrew for the word measure, but then you go to Hebrew, it actually says mesurah. Mesurah, which if you transliterate today, it takes you to measure. So now you take that word, Hebrew lexicon 4884, and it takes you to Leviticus chapter, I think I wrote that, 19 verse 35. And I'm going to show you where this is first mentioned, the word measure. In the book of Leviticus, chapter 19 verse 35. And this is really something interesting that was catching me because, to be honest with you, I didn't know what I was going to talk about, but I was saying, Father, I want you to speak on my behalf because I don't know what to speak. And he's like, good, stay in the measure of where you were training or where you were equipped with my word. I was like, oh, that's it. See, the reason why I brought the modern church realm and today's discipleship training institutes like us, we differ from that because in churches, they're more sloppy agape. And if you don't know what I'm saying by that, I'm saying they use the Father's word and they use it so unorganized to a point. You have people ministering and speaking in tongues. You have people prophesying. You have people casting out devils all in the same arena. But yet there was a measure of rule that Apostle Paul was telling the churches, saying, guys, there's a way to do this and to operate properly in a church realm. But what's interesting, it's kind of funny that if you look at the New Testament, there was a lot of churches being spoken about. But if you go to the Tanakh, you actually see men of Yahuah who were hated by the rulers and emissaries of lands, of nations, taking dominion over these nations. Now, if you take a look right here, Leviticus chapter 19, verse 35. I was on 14. Wrong one. And it takes you to the word measure, and it has a threefold function I want you to take a look into. So in verse 35, it says this. We'll read, read 35. It says, you shall do no injustice in judgment, in measurement of length, weight, and or volume. So measurement of length, weight, or volume. So you actually begin to see that measurement had a threefold chord: length times width times height. But here it's length, weight, and or volume. The Father was trying to show you and I, don't get out of the measure of rule of where he has assigned you, of where you are to be seated in heavenly places. The reason why, and I've seen this from even ministers who call themselves ministers, that they actually pour into the church so much, but then they leave the church because the board of, I guess the board didn't want them to understand the vision of what the pastor had, because they wanted the pastor to be on the same vision with the board. That's not true. Because if you really understand a man of Yah, a man of integrity, a man of the scriptures, of character, remember what our TerrorBite was last night, how character has self-restraint, then you would actually understand what I'm about to lead you to. So the reason why we need to stay in our measure of rule is because I'm saying it from experience, because when I got out of my measure, I'm out of shalom, I'm out of his righteousness, and I'm also out of rule. So there's a measure of rule that the Father's giving unto you and I, is because he wants you to understand you're coming into your sonship, you're coming into nobility in the kingdom. So now I was actually talking with a sister of mine, and she was like, I was like, hey, what word is that? And it was a Hebrew word. It looked like a kite, the spine of a kite, but it was actually thorns. It was a samek. So I looked at the Paleo Hebrew, and she said, look at this. It's a samek and a resh. And she just left it at that, and I started doing the research to that, and it says a thorn and a resh. A thorn is the samek, and the resh represents the back of a man's head right here. So it says it means the turning of the head. So what's funny is that if you were to watch the covenant calendar of day, you actually begin to see that in the Jewish, hear me out, in the Jewish Gregorian calendar where we are currently at today at this very night, we are in Rosh Hashanah. But if you studied covenant calendar of day, it would have taken you in the day process, where you actually begin to see the Feast of Trumpets was last week, and we're coming into a new appointed time. Remember, we said this years ago. There was Chronos, which is time like 7:30, 7:15. Kairos, which is a time like as in fall, spring, summer, etc. And then you have Moedim. So 2 Greek words and 1 Hebrew word. Chronos, Kairos, and Moedim. Moedim in Hebrew means times and seasons where you have an appointment to meet the Father. If you actually understand Leviticus 23, which is the feasts of Yahuah, you have an easier time to manifest the promises of the Father that he already spoke unto you. If you didn't get it the first time, he's a Father that he's not going to lie like a man and say, oh, you didn't get it, you're not going to get it again. What happens is, when you miss it the first time, you go back around, and it's going to come back around to manifest. It's your choice if you are willing to receive. Now, the turning of the head represents a noble elder. So that's why if you understand the measure, an elder knows how to measure people. He knows how to measure how much carnality the person has, how to measure the soul of a person, and how to measure the spirit of a man. And I'm not saying man as in just a general, like if you're born as a man, you're a man. No, I'm saying man as in mankind, both male and female, nothing else. If you actually begin to see any transgender or anything like that, that is a demon. Plain and simple as that. I'm not going to argue with that. It's just in the scriptures. And science has proven that the Father says, no, I made man in my image, and I hid the woman in man, and also his image and likeness, who represent me. But you actually begin to understand Adam was actually the first male. He fell from the favor, or where he was originally placed in the measure of rule. All he had to do was see the garden, study the animals, and give them names. And Eve was right there as the helpmeet to the man. So as you begin to see that, Adam was made a living soul, a living nefesh. But what's interesting is once he got out of his measure, he became a living suke. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 45. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 45. It was right there. Let me get some water first. And it says, and this is let's just read it. And so it is written, the first man Adam became a living being, a living soul. The last Adam became a quickening spirit, a life-giving spirit. However, the spiritual is not first, but the natural, and afterward the spiritual. The first man was of the earth, made of dust. The second man is of Yahuah from Shamayim, meaning heaven. As was the man of dust, so are also those who are made of dust. And as it is the heavenly man, so are those who are heavenly. And as we have borne the image of the man of dust, we shall bear the image of the heavenly man. So wait a minute, it doesn't make any sense right here. Well, it clearly does, because if you identify with flesh, if you identify with carnality, you're going to identify with the first Adam nature. But if you're going to identify with the things of spirit, the quickening Adam, meaning Yeshua, now you're going to begin to see your posture change completely. So now you're not going to wake up feeling dirty. You're not going to wake up feeling like, I need a shower, although a lot of us do, but a lot of us are not going to wake up saying, oh, I feel this carnality, this bestiality. No, when you begin to, we said this word prior in several Sabbaths ago, metanoia, which is Greek for learning how to change your mind. You're continuously changing your mind on a day-to-day basis, on a second. You remember, you're learning how to replace your soulish activity, so now you're learning how to identify more with spiritual, the heavenly man, not the earthly man. The earthly man, all he can produce is flesh. The spiritual man can only produce heavenly things. That's why if you read, as I said before, 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 45 through 49, now you're going to begin to see an identity change within you. You no longer see yourself as flesh, but you see yourself as spirit. That's why before the foundations of the world, Revelation 13:8, the Lamb was slain before the foundation. So what is that entailing into you and I? It's saying that whatever fleshly identity that you have, whatever soul, sin identity that you have to, it's done. It's gone away. You just need to renew your mind on to think that you're spirit, you're heavenly, you're not earthly. Plain and simple as that. But what's interesting is that if you begin to see that, now you're going to begin to see your own soul within the scriptures. And listen to what it says. Here are some things that reflect the first Adam's nature, which is lack of character, lack of commitment, unfaithfulness, no reliability or dependability, no punctuality, inconsistency, and a general lack of other characteristics that reflect in a man's life after he has been dealt with in the merismos by Yeshua. When Yahuah deals with us, he deals with our souls to take out of us the part that wants to flee or fight. And you know who did that in the scriptures? Hagar. Anytime you deal with that, or the Father deals with you, he'll do it in a way where you will understand correction and order. But it's not... Yahuah chastises those he loves. Hear me out. So if he gives you a spanking, it's because he loves you. He's trying to correct you so then he can say, my son, my daughter, I'm doing this for your betterment. So therefore, you're not identifying with the soul, with the flesh, with sin, but you're identifying yourself with me, which is spirit. That's why that's why flesh is enmity between us and Yahuah. Reason why is because you're going to continue identifying with flesh. You're not going to continue to press into the things of what the Father has for you and I. That's why you're always stuck in a rut. You're going in a same circle of the emotional realm, and you're not seeing the end result is because you're going through the same circle again and again and again. But the Father's still trying to show you, okay, when are you going to rise up and get out of that? I have a way out. Will you get out, or are you going to stay the same? Or are you going to let your emotions the first Adam nature take a hold of you. That's what I'm saying. You know, the first Adam wants to do what is natural. The first thought is from the soulish realm. Man's first choice is self-motivated because the soul is self-ruled. In 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 2, he told the elders to take oversight. In Hebrews 13:7, the writer said, "Obey them that have rule over you, and submit yourself, for they watch for your souls." The purpose of bishops and overseers is to oversee the soul. If you're going to be a doer of the word, you have to do it all. You can't just use the scriptures and say, this is what I see, this is how I see it. You can't isolate. There's a word for it. Eisegesis, there we go. That's the word I learned in college. You can't isolate the scriptures and make it sound how it is for yourself. If you're going to do the word, you got to do the whole thing. It's going to help be there to encourage you, equip you, make you, break you, and recreate you anew. You're not supposed to have your own identity, because if you have your own identity, you're staying in the first Adam nature, the fallen nature. Why do you think we have a lot of chaos happening in the news? Just earlier today, Sheliak and I, we were eating, and then we just saw in the news that there was a Texas shooting over there on ICE or something like that. I really couldn't pay attention to the news because there was a lot of chitter-chatter around us. But then they were also saying there was a girl that recently passed away, and she was a local in Lake Elsinore, which is like a couple of minutes down the road from where we reside in Wildemar. So that's why it's kind of stunning how the first Adam nature is still ruling, and he's still becoming more prevalent. Our jobs here is to bring forth the message of salvation, common salvation, great salvation, eternal salvation in Yahuah. And we don't do that today. Why? Because we're so caught up in our own thing that we choose to forsake our brother and our sister from time to time and not give them a phone call and say, hey, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? Or we don't do it all because we're focused on me, I. I has a huge tendency to be self-seeking and self-gratifying. So until you learn to submit that I, not sin, not I and sin, the I, the you, I'm speaking to me too because I have a lot of I's in me. When you learn to submit that I in you, now you're going to begin to see the Father working his work in you. Why? Is because he's trying to expand you and enlarge you into the realm, into the measure of rule of where he's trying to establish you. But again, if you're soul-ruled, self-seeking, self-gratifying, the Father can't work with you. Why? Because you chose to get out of the measure of rule of where he has you. You know, this right here has a tendency, the battle in between your ears has a tendency to make you get out of your own measure of rule too. It's called intellect. And trust me, I learned a lot by being an intellect that it caused me to be nowhere in life. Well, I can't say that. I'm actually here in H2HDI, so, you know, that's actually more than enough for me because what says I'd rather be in the courts in the presence of our Heavenly Father because that's where his presence is. And what's interesting, I completely forgot about that scripture. It just popped in my head. But I'm trying to illustrate to you, stay in the measure of rule. The reason for that is because in due time, in due season, the Father will promote you. Promotion cometh neither from the east nor from the west, but it comes from Yahuah. So the more you lay down your life for Yahuah, not in your giftings, but you lay down your soul and say, Father, use me. Break me little by little. Now he's going to begin to say, okay, son, okay, daughter, now let me help to increase you in the measure, in the length, in the weight, and in the rule of who you are. So until we see each other again, just want to thank you, welcome you. And this is a process that you and I must go through because there's two words I want you to meditate on, which is macrothumia and hupomene. Macrothumia is G1:15, which is the patience of the Father. meaning he doesn't waver. He doesn't get tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine, by what's being seen on the phone. He stays sturdy like an ox. So from when you plow with an ox, nowadays we don't have oxes to plow unless you're living in a third world country. Then yeah, they do have oxes that they use to plow. But in modern America, in farmland, they don't use plow. They use John Deere machines. And I had the privilege of driving a skid steer or a mini excavator or a skip loader. And those were fun to use. You just use the backhoe and start plowing. And it already plows for you. You just drive straight. And the second word that I want you to really meditate is hupomene. That's G5278. Once again, hupomene, G5278. Patience of the Son, steadfastness, consistency, sturdiness, one that does not move. Macrothumia, G115, patience of the Father, and hupomene, G5278, patience of the Son, steadfastness, consistency. You want to see results? Stay consistent with the word. I'm saying this because I've seen my answered prayer from time to time, and I'm beginning to see it more and more. So until we see each other again, stay in the measure, stay in the parameters, stay in the measure of rule of where the Father has you, because in due time, as you begin to lay down your soul for Him, He's going to lift up your head to now you're going to be the one to know how to operate in the measure of rule that He's given you. So until we see each other again, don't forget to hit the like, the share button, subscribe for more content. We have content such as our TerrorBites live every Tuesday from 7. I encourage you, get your pens, your papers ready for notes. We have our Sabbath live stream every Saturday from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Another time to get your pens, your papers ready for notes and to research the scriptures. And we also have Intune with the Triune, which is what you are watching right now, live every Wednesday at 7. So please be encouraged. Get your pens, your papers ready for notes. Research the scriptures. Research these words, because you can't lose with the stuff Yahuah gives you. And I'm serious. I've seen it, because I have to put my soul into the the threshing floor, and I'm saying, oh, I don't need this. I don't need that. I just need the word. The word. That's what He's trying to elevate in you. The word working in you. So until we see each other again, you guys be in Shalom, Boker Tov, Lila Tov. Be Baruch this day. Shalom.